Smith. This is the Boxing Voice. Eddie Earns today announced Matchroom Boxing back in Birmingham.
Yeah.
You know, how big is this for the city of Birmingham?
I think it's fantastic for Birmingham. You know, I made no secret. I wanted to come here for a long, long time. You know, back in the early days of Sky in the 90s, we were up here a lot. You know, obviously before it was Pat Cowdell, then it was sort of Robert McCracken and Spencer McCracken and those boys. And the atmosphere, even at the Aston Villa Leisure Centre that we used to come to sort of on a Saturday night was fantastic. And I missed that. You know, there was a void. And we went to Manchester and Glasgow and Belfast and other cities. And more recently it's been Liverpool and Leeds, but I think that Birmingham is a sleeping giant. I think that what we've needed was a sort of good crop of fighters, a pack together that can bring the big time back. You know, Frankie Gavins, the fun time. I think the big time back to Birmingham, because I think that it's always been a boxing city. Having Frankie Gavins is terrific. He's got all the talent in the world. I think he'll tell you himself, disappointed with his career so far because he's let himself down at times. I don't think he's been as dedicated as he should have been, and I've told him that. And I think that if he knuckles down, and I think if he gets it right, this is a massive opportunity for him to bring the big fights back to Birmingham, and for himself to fight for a world title alongside the Yafai brothers. I think Cal Yafai is a world champion in the making. Gamal is a terrific talent coming through. Sam Eggington, you know, coming up from nowhere, you know, and they all sell tickets. And John Pegg's stable's really buzzing. And I think that it's the right time to come to Birmingham. I don't want it to be a one-off.
Are you quite surprised? It's you know being the second biggest city in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, with cards in Manchester, every 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah.
We've got the O2, Sheffield.
Yeah.
You're quite surprised that, you know, considering the crop of fighters around Birmingham and the Midlands, it's it's took this long.
It has taken a long time. You know, we came for Frankie Gavins' debut, and now we're back with him. But we did the Magnificent Seven show as well with Frank Warren, which had a load of fighters on. But that was 4.5 years ago, and I think that. I think it's been too long. I really do. And I said to Eddie, I said the two cities I think you really should explore are Leeds and Birmingham. Leeds because Josh Warrington sells a bundle of tickets there, and the atmosphere, we've already seen in a couple of nights up there, it's been phenomenal for us on Sky. And I just said, you know, I think Birmingham, and he said, we've got to wait for this is the right time. And I think that, you know, with Matthew Macklin deciding to fight on, Frankie Gavin, Eggington, Yafais, and others, you know, other kids around here coming through. And it's not just about the headliners, it's about the whole, you know, city getting behind the kids coming through and all of that. But I think it's the right time to come to Birmingham, and I'm hoping, as I said, it's not a one-off, but we can come, you know, 2 or 3 times a year. It'd be brilliant.
I mean, you're very influential in, you know, how Sky Sports put together a TV show. You know, we've got Box Nation with Frank Warren.
Yeah.
There's, you know, this, like we have in America with Top Rank, Golden Boy, the Cold War. We're kind of getting that in the UK with some fighters. You know, Frank's got Box Nation. You know, we've got Eddie with Sky Sports, and there's some fights that are not happening because, you know, fighters are with 2 different promoters on 2 different networks.
Frank went to start up Box Nation as a boxing channel, so you know that's different to what we do. You know, we're Sky Sports. We've got a whole, you know, a range of sports. Obviously, football is massive to us, and you know. The cricket deals we've recently signed, and golf and rugby and darts, and there's a whole list of sports. It's an arsenal. It's a plethora. It's something for everybody. So you know, boxing's just a part of that. So we don't have a boxing channel, so it's not always as easy to sort of, you know, get everything on television at the same time. You know, we've got a lot of other hurdles.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of channels on Sky now, but there's a lot of rights deals of output from other sports. So all we try and do is we try and put on the best we can. We're going to deal with Matchroom, which has been very successful. You know, Eddie and I work very well together, and I love his vibrancy and his creativity, and you know, and I think that he's brought the atmospheres back to the arenas, and obviously that was seen more than anything at Wembley. So I've no doubt there can be bigger boxing nights ahead. As far as working together, that's really down to the promoters. You know, we don't get involved in that. That's up to Eddie and Frank and Mick Hennessy and Barry McGuigan and others to sort of get around a table and put these quick Framptons together and all that. As far as I'm concerned, I want the best possible fights. Yeah. So do the fight fans, and we'll try and do everything we can to bring them.
I mean, it's absolutely crucial that Sky Sports puts together massive fights because, you know, it's the future of the sport, being on mainstream television. You know, I mean, how confident are you? As you've just said, there's so many sports out now. You know, Sky Sports investing in a lot of sports. How confident are you that Sky Sports, you know, continue to pledge, you know, pledge the finances in the future for boxing. It is a niche sport, even though it has all the history in the UK.
But we have always been involved in boxing. Since the day I started, there's not been one season, 1 month where we haven't had boxing on Sky. So, we've put a lot into the game. And I think that, yes, we've had Sky box office events, which we've needed to for the big fights, and they'll be continued to do that as we feel and when we feel it's right as a business, as a company to do that. But we have been absolute. When BBC and ITV pulled out, we just hear ITV have taken the Carl Frampton Avalos fight, which is terrific to have ITV back involved. Fantastic, a lot of eyeballs on that. That's great. I love competition. That's not a problem. There's Channel 5, there's Box Nation. Better for the fight fans if boxing's being shown. But I will look at us, look at Sky, and say we have been loyal and dedicated to the core with boxing throughout the last couple of decades. We still are. It's very much part of our portfolio. And I don't think a lot of criticism can be brought our way for what we have put into boxing over the years. It's been a lot of money. Okay,
we had George Groves, Carl Froch last year, massive fight. I mean, it did take it to that level that boxing hasn't been on, certainly in this country, for decades nearly. Now, because of the success of the Froch Groves fight, could that be? Does that mean that people like Eddie are going to try and force people, to buy standard fights, by putting them on pay-per-view because of the success Froch and Groves generated? For example, the Bellew-Cleverley fight, where in a lot of people's eyes that was not a box office fight. It was a standard Sky Sports 8 o'clock show fight on a Saturday. Now, what would you say to the buying customers that I think, well, if we do get a decent matchup, a decent domestic fight, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be box office. Box office should really be exclusive for, like the creme de la creme, James DeGale, Carl Froch, Amir Khan, Kell Brook. But there are a lot of worried people out there that think every time there is going to be a big domestic fight, it's going to be end up on pay-per-view.
I think the answer is that we look at each box office event as and when the time is right, we look at it and we decide what we're going to do with it. As far as Bellew-Cleverley goes, there's a lot of criticism about the fight to begin with from the trade. Not the casual fans. They wanted to see, two guys like Froch and Groves didn't like each other. It was at a different level, but we did know one thing: we didn't know who was going to win, and they didn't like each other. So I think that was something to go with. Plus, then the card being, having James DeGale and George Groves and Anthony Joshua and everybody else, Callum Smith, all on the card, that those shows cannot be made unless there's a lot of investment in that, and that's the problem. So it is difficult, and I think that on Sky Sports, we're trying to get the best possible fights and the best possible names on Sky Sports. Kell Brook, for example, we're trying to get Anthony Joshua, we're trying to get these guys on Sky Sports as much as possible, but you have to look at each different occasion as and when, because ultimately these fights may not happen if there's no Sky Box Office or Sky Sports.
Speaking of Anthony Joshua, just reminded me, Deontay Wilder capturing the heavyweight title last week. Not this year maybe, but certainly maybe next year. Joshua, Wilder, I mean, that could be the worldwide, the new era, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson maybe, that kind of...
Joshua Wilder, Joshua Hay, Wilder Hay, Fury Wilder, Price Watt. I mean, there's a whole load of them, aren't there? It's a fantastic time for heavyweight boxing. I personally believe that the moment that announcement was made that Deontay Wilder had got a portion of the world heavyweight title, game changer in boxing. Game changer, because Al Heyman has Deontay Wilder. He signed a massive deal with NBC. They're on terrestrial television. You get the heavyweight champion of the world from America on American national television, and you're surely going to get a lot of people back involved in the sport. Yes, Vladimir Klitschko is still head and shoulders above the rest. I wouldn't put Deontay Wilder anywhere near Vladimir Klitschko at the moment, but Wilder has done very well to get where he's got. He's got bags of personality, and I think it's a fantastic thing to have an American heavyweight champion again. Look at the Brits. They're lining up for him. Take their time. There's no rush. Certainly no rush for Joshua or Price. Fury, if he fancies it, maybe he's a bit closer. But I think that one of those guys, one of those Brits, David Hay out in the wilderness, one of those Brits will get that opportunity again. And possibly when boxing's in an even bigger place.
Okay, Floyd Mayweather, they've normally got the fights with Box Nation. They used to be on Sky. I think the last fight Sky did, correct me if I'm wrong, was Shane Mosley. I'm not too sure.
Possibly.
No, Mayweather, is he going to be back on Sky? I mean, Was that? This is just a rumor out there. Amir Khan didn't get the Mayweather fight. This is just a rumor, probably not true, because he had a contract with Box Nation and Floyd didn't want to put the pay-per-view with Box Nation. He wanted it with Sky Box, which I don't know if that has any weight behind it or not. Is that something? No idea. No?
I don't know. All I know is that Mayweather makes his choices.
Yeah.
So ultimately, Amir was back with Sky in December for the Alexander fight. I was delighted about that. I think he's a great guy, Amir. He's come back from adversity. I thought he put a terrific masterclass on. I'd love him to fight on Sky next time. Who's he going to fight? We just don't know at the moment. You know, if I could look at my crystal ball and say, right, this is what I'd want personally as a fight fan, and you probably want the same thing. I want Mayweather Pacquiao. I then want Khan Brook. But you know, that would be perfect, but I don't think that's going to happen because Mayweather Pacquiao might not happen. If it does, great. If it doesn't, Mayweather fights Cotto, then Khan could fight Pacquiao or somebody else. Otherwise, Khan's going to get left in the cold a bit because Brook's got his next fight, and then Khan's going to have Ramadan as well, so he won't be able to fight in the summer. So that sort of puts Brook out of the way for the moment. So Khan will fight in May, and if he doesn't fight Pacquiao or Mayweather, and maybe Mayweather will turn around and fight Khan. I don't think that will happen. I think Mayweather fights Pacquiao or Cotto, and I think Khan fights Pacquiao, or if not, he's got to look at someone like a Timothy Bradley or a Garcia or someone like that, and just sort of hang in there. Remember, Al Heyman's the advisor, so he's going to be the one that is moving all the chess pieces together. So ultimately, whatever happens in the next 2 weeks, and I believe we'll find out something on Super Bowl, because that's what Mayweather tends to announce. I think we'll find something out in the next week or two, and whatever it is, you can guarantee yourself that Al Heyman has been behind it, and he's pulling all the strings together. So it'll be very interesting to see which way he goes. Hopefully, the world wants to see it. If it doesn't happen this year, maybe it will never happen. Mayweather Pacquiao, May and September, a rematch. That's what we want. Fingers crossed.
Okay, my final question to you. You know, as someone quite high up in Sky Sports, which fight would you prefer? Carl Froch, which fight would you prefer in terms of success for Sky Sports? Carl Froch versus James DeGale here, or Carl Froch versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in America?
Difficult question to answer. Always prime time here at 10, 11 o'clock is great. Obviously, if Carl fights in the States, it's 3, 4 in the morning against Chavez. I think both are great for Carl personally. I think he's had an amazing career. If he doesn't fight again, if he goes out on that Wembley night, you know, who can blame him? There's no better place to go out. You know, he's getting on as well, Carl, and if he has another one, he has another one. I don't think he'll end up fighting James DeGale. I think that DeGale will fight Durrell or Kessler or Groves.
Hopefully Groves.
Yeah, DeGale Groves. Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Yeah.
If we can't get Brook and Khan, let's get DeGale Groves. And I'd like to see Froch fight maybe a Chavez or a Hopkins or someone like that, because you know, I don't know. I think in a way, as Mayweather sort of has picked and choose a bit at the end of his career, and we hope he picks Pacquiao for his legacy as much as anything. I think Carl doesn't owe anybody anything. So I think if he picks retirement, if he picks Chavez, if he picks you or me, I think it's up to him. And I think that he shouldn't get any criticism for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Adam.